back on it. Thank you, everyone. Being 5 o'clock, I'm going to call this meeting to order and first ask the clerk to rise and say the prayer.
O God, let us each in our own way ask your wisdom and guidance in our deliberations. Help us to incorporate into all our decisions those values which will enable us to fulfill our mission, to act as responsible stewards, and to respect and value the cultural and spiritual tradition of all citizens of the city of Prince Albert. For this we pray. Amen.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that we're on Treaty 6 land, the home of the Métis. Approval of the agenda. We have one addition. We have a correspondence from retired citizen Brian Clave about our taxes. And so if I could get approval of the agenda as amended with the extra item. Nope. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. That the agenda for this meeting be approved as presented and presentations, delegations, speakers listed on the agenda be heard forward called by the mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Yep, so we're approving the agenda as amended. And it is now open. Councillor Zapp. Hello, Councillor Zapp. Hello, Councillor Zapp. Oh yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I'll try her the next time. Okay. Councillor Zapp. Can you take your mic off mute?
She's just going to re-get on.
Oh, she's rebooting? I can go ahead. It's been a bad. Oh, it'll only take a couple seconds, okay. Oh, we lost her again? Councillor Zapp? Okay, as she tries to reboot and come online, we'll move on. It carried 8-0, so the motion carries. Presentations, we have none. Delegations, we have none. Conflict of interest, you all know what that is, so if you have any to declare, you declare it at the time and then let the clerk know the reasoning why. Number 6, adoption of the minutes. Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the minutes of council regular meeting held March 7th, 2022 be taken as read and adopted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Bodnick?
Thank you. I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments? I see none. I'll prompt the question. Approval of the minutes. Now open. Councillor Zapp? She's still not there? Okay. I need one more inside the room. Oh, me. That's you? Yep. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on. Notice of proclamations, I had none. Public hearings, there is none. Delegations, there is none. Communications, there is none. Reports of administration and committees. 11.1, Social Services Bus Pass Program, Letter of Understanding. Councillor Zierakowski.
Your Worship, I will move that the letter of understanding between the City and the Ministry of Social Services with regards to the discounted bus pass program for the 2022-2023 be approved. and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the letter of understanding on behalf of the city once prepared.
Sorry to jump in. If you don't mind, I'd like to add number 3, that authorizes the mayor to write the social services again to ask for an increase. We've had that $25 fee forever, and as we know, our costs continue to go up. And so I think it's appropriate when we send the letter back to send out a follow-up letter to say, can you give us an increase? Can you cut her off? Okay, we cut her off, or muted her, sorry.
So we'll add a motion that says.
That the mayor be authorized to write social service a letter asking for the increase on the discount bus program.
No, that's good. I think that's just a continuation of last year's conversation and the last couple of years.
Yes. They continue to increase the amount that we get, but they don't increase the individual amount. So what I mean is, I think it was capped at one point at 65, and now it's going to even more, but they have not changed the $25. And especially now, I'm gonna refer to the price of gas. And this is a great opportunity. We all know what that is. Okay, do I have a seconder? Nope, a seconder. Oh, Councillor Head. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second this motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. What is she doing now? It's now open. Councillor Zapp? No? She left again. Okay, I'll just keep going, and if she gets back on and we have her, we will. Thank you. Passes 8-0. Okay, 11.2, 2022 Community Grant Program recipients. Councillor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the 2022 Community Grant Program recipients be approved and that the authority to proceed with projects be granted to successful applicants upon receipt of final approval from Saskatchewan Lotteries Trust Fund for Sport, Culture, and Recreation. And 3, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the 2022 grant agreements on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder?
Thank you, Your
Councillor
Worship.
Head?
Yes, I'll second that motion, please.
Thank you. Any comments? Oop. Councillor Cody?
Yes, Your Worship. I note that we are getting $142,985, which is perfectly good, and I agree certainly that the program is great. Just a quick question I have of administration. Do you charge an administration fee for doing this work?
Director of Community Services, Jody Boulay.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. To Councillor Cody's inquiry, no, we don't. I guess that could be a conversation when we apply next go-around, whether or not there's some ability to recover some of our administration of the program. However, currently we don't.
Councillor Cody?
Yeah, I certainly agree that that's the possibility, and but I tell you what, I think you've done the right thing. You've at least got a heart. That's something the provincial government doesn't have. They charge 7% when we get grant money from Ottawa. They take on 7% of this money and put it into their coffers. Here we do all of this good work and we don't charge anything. And I think it's a good thing that we don't, because we give it to the people who deserve it, and that's the people who are getting the grants tonight. And I wish that we could convince the provincial government to do the same, to have some heart from time to time and leave the money that's coming from senior government, coming to junior government, to even junior more government than we are, and give us the 7% that's owed to us. And we can then give it to the people who actually deserve it.
Thank you. Any more comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. On the community grant program, the screen's now open. Councillor Zapp? Still not there? Okay. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, I'll quit asking. You just tell me if I have her or not. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no pay. 11.3, sponsorship agreement. Counselor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. Also move that the Cook Municipal Golf Course sponsorship agreement with TJ's Pizza Incorporated in the amount of $5,000 for 2022, ending December 31st, 2022 be approved. 2, that the Cook Municipal Golf Course sponsorship agreement between the city and Chris Turner Realty in the amount of $5,000 per year for 2 years and ending December 31st, 2023 be approved. And 3, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreements on behalf of the city once prepared.
Counselor Cody.
Yes, I'll second that, and then I have a comment to make as well.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, in all, we have now received $529,500 at the Golf and Curling Club, which I think is astronomical, really, when you think about it. And we have to give a big thank you to the business community here, who steps up all the time and helps us out. That's $525,000, $29,000 that we'd have to get from the taxpayers, and we don't have to do that. And they step up to the plate and do these things. And secondly, I think we have to give a bit of a thank you to our guy upstairs, Mr. Vance, who goes out and gets these donations. He's pretty good at it. I mean, he's obviously made his wages here at getting 500 and some odd $1,000. So congratulations to the business community for stepping up to the plate and helping us out in places where we really need the money, and it's put to tremendously good use for upgrading the golf course.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Motion carries. Thank you. 11.4, Prince Albert Minor Hockey Grand Slam Rebuild Campaign. Oh, did I say basketball? Or baseball? Go ahead, Councillor Edwards.
Also move that the naming rights agreement between the city and the Prince Albert Kinsman Club in the amount of $60,000 for a period of 6 years ending December 31st, 2027 be approved. 2, that the ball fields located at Crescent Acres Community Club now be referred to as the Kinsman Baseball Complex at Crescent Acres for the duration of the agreement. 3, that one field in the Kinsman Baseball Complex at Crescent Acres be named the Fountain Tire Field. 4, that the naming rights agreement between the city and Fountain Tire in the amount of $9,000 for a period of 3 years ending December 31st, 2024 be approved. 5, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Zierakowski.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Speak to it if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
So again, here we have another service group stepping forward with cash over the next 6 years and another local business. And I'll say it because who's benefiting? The kids are benefiting.
Yes.
The children are benefiting. And this is going to be a wonderful addition for the kids to use that diamond that they're going to reconstruct. Fountain Tire and the Kinsman Club have been wonderful contributors to our community. I think they need to be recognized because why? Because again, the kids are going to benefit. So partnerships mean a lot, and I think we need to recognize these two organizations and say thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dion. I just want to say a couple words. I think this is going to be an awesome ballpark. Baseball is in need of this ballpark, and it's going to be wonderful to see the transformation and finally a U15 diamond in town, which the baseball hasn't had since 2014. Big shout out though to the Prince Albert Kinsman Club, who continuously come through for the community. Really respect the great bunch of people that are involved. They've had some major donations this year, this being one of them, and good job on those guys that continue to come through for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just expand a little. It's not only thanking the organizations for stepping forward, but it's to also thank the volunteers that made this happen. Because it was them that made it happen, went out and met with them, had the vision, you know, and did help us out building the big diamonds at Prime Minister's Park. So I'm glad that this is going to work together. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Hi, Tara.
Technical issues.
Oh, you can't? Okay. Then you're okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'll pump this question. We're just on the minor hockey Grand Slam. What did I say this time? Hockey? And you're innocent. God, and I'm only on the fourth item. Okay, I'm going to prompt the question. Okay, the question is open. And the motion carries. Thank you. 11.5, 2022 Public Art Commission. Councillor Rodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that the commission of the artwork entitled Passage Home be created by artist Mary Longman be approved. 2, that $123,000 support of the commission, including installation and unveiling in Scarrow Plaza, be allocated from the Public Art Reserve as approved in the Public Art Long-Term Plan. And 3, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute an agreement with the artist on behalf of the city once prepared. And I'll speak to it if we have a seconder.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Miller.
I'll second Mayor Dion. Thank you.
Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Judy McLeod Campbell and the working group that put together this particular installation, along with the Department of Community Services. This Passage Home is a very important piece that will be close to the riverbank, and it's a travois, which is a traditional Indigenous mode of transportation. And we saw the prototype at our executive meeting, and you know, inside that travois is going to be moccasins from various parts of Saskatchewan from this particular area, and everything about it is really has a lot of meaning. And I think this is going to be the first of its kind in Canada, and it's going to be a very important piece to add to our community of public art. And also, I think it's going to also help in reconciliation and understanding of our history. So I congratulate the department. I congratulate Judy McLeod Campbell and the arts group that worked on this, and of course the artist for her vision that is going to be outstanding. And my understanding, it's going to open on Truth and Reconciliation Day. Is going to be the unveiling in September 30th, which is also very appropriate. So I'm looking forward to seeing the installation and then the interpretation of the installation and adding to our public art in the community. It's going to be a top-notch installation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to reiterate a few other comments, and thank you, Councillor Grodnick, for those. It was very nice meeting Mary Longman in our last meeting, and some of the vision of the artist herself. And again, I want to give some credit to Judy McLeod Campbell as well for bringing this artist, or connecting with this artist and bringing it to City Council. This is the first piece of its kind. I think we talked about that at the last executive meeting, but looking forward to seeing this come to fruition, Truth and Reconciliation Day, and also addresses, or at least works on, one of our calls of action as well, as that's what's on the agenda. So, thank you.
Yes. Right on. Any other comments? Hearing none, all. Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah,
Councillor Brodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I should just also mention at the last executive meeting, I thanked our parks manager for the tree placement and stuff, and actually I erred in that. It was the artist that also identified specific trees that will be planted along the path, and it all has meaning, and it's all local, and the travois actually goes towards the riverbank, which is traditional gathering place, and so it's passage home, the title, going to the traditional gathering place of our Indigenous peoples is absolutely brilliant on the part of the committee and the artist, so thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you very much, and kudos to the comments. Okay, I'm going to prompt the question. The question's now open. Thank you. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 11.6 2022 property tax bylaws. You gotta get it faster on the remote gun. Councilor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship, I will agree with the administration's recommendation and move that the following bylaws be given first and second reading: bylaw number 7 of 2022, bylaw number 8 of 2022, bylaw number 9 of 2022, bylaw number 10 of 2022, and bylaw 11 of 2022.
That's it? Councilor Kilmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? Councilor Zepp?
Thank you. Firstly, I have to say that you all look a lot bigger in person than on the screen. So I wanted to make note here that using solely a mill rate system and no base taxes would mean that our taxation system would be proportionate to the assessed value of the properties. I oppose the base taxes. I do so now, and I have in the past as well. Base taxes create a heavier burden on low and middle valued properties than if we were charging a mill rate system only. The report in this item states, quote, "It is being proposed that a new base tax be established to reduce the impact of a property tax increase. But this action only reduces the impact of a property tax increase for higher valued properties. Lower and middle valued properties will pay more under this. The result of these base taxes is to shift taxation away from higher valued properties and charge more onto lower and middle valued properties as compared with a fully mill rate system."
Thank you. Councilor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with base tax, and the reason I agree with that is, and I disagree with Councillor Lennox-Zepp on her point that it unfairly puts more pressure on lower assessed valued properties and middle income assessed properties. I would agree with you if we didn't all receive the same services in the city, but that's what it's about. It's about tax fairness, that if we actually had every single property paying what it costs for some services, we'd see a significant shift in taxation in the city from some of the 40% right now that saw a massive increase last year with assessment, and 60% of the properties in Prince Albert, their taxes went down in Prince Albert. And that's what this is about, is when you want to make tax fairness so that everybody receives the same services, everybody should pay a little bit for those services. Some people should not have, $300, $400, $500 in taxes, and that's it, property taxes. I mean, especially when you think about fire protective services, fire and police are costing us $1,800 per property. That's what it would cost. And some people aren't paying anywhere near that. And I'm not saying they should be paying $1,800, but maybe that's what we should look at, is that we make everything equal based on the services that you get. I've had residents say that, why should I, be paying for whatever when I don't use that service? Well, that's what it means about living in a city, is that everybody pays and pays a little bit for these services. And so these changes that we're having this year in our taxation is, I think, making it a little more fair and easing the burden on those 40% that paid massively last year. If they wouldn't have paid massively last year, then it might be a different story. But when you have people who have taxes, the 40%, some of them going up 2,500, 3,000 in 1 year, in a year where we didn't raise the mill rate, it was because of assessment. That's just not right. And so I think this is an attempt at some tax fairness, and I will support these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. Was saying that, Councillor Grotnick, I believe that's our next meeting we're gonna have about fixing that situation. So this situation we're talking about is a levy and a base tax of an extra $40. And I would rather see a 6% increase on assessment of value of your house. And because I think that's fair and equal. That's what I think, that's what I believe, and say what you want, but that's the way I believe. And I also think about our seniors that are living in their houses on fixed incomes. And everyone in our room here, I believe, know that we do have seniors living in their households. They're on fixed incomes and cannot afford extras. And we also have the low-income people who live in low-income housing. An extra $40 on each of those doors will affect them greatly because it goes downhill, right? So your landlord will put it on to the low-income residents. And we also have the working poor in our city. And, you know, we do have a lot of homelessness already on our streets, and I don't believe we need to create any more. Thank you, and I will not be supporting.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm not a great believer in taxing lower income homes, but at the same time, you do have to create some better level playing field than we now have. You simply can't continue on with the ad valorem system the way it is and continue on putting 4, 5, 6% on those homes, and they eventually will simply leave our community. And I don't want to see them leave our community. I know people will say, yes, but that person will leave because they don't want to pay it, but another person will move in. Not necessarily said, not necessarily said. They may not move in. They may all move out to the country and where they think the taxes are less. So I think there is some validity in having a fair playing field. If you look at other situations, look at the telephone system in our country. If we were paying the amount of money we should pay in the city of Prince Albert, city of Regina, Saskatoon, we'd practically pay nothing. But we pay for all of those people in northern Saskatchewan. We pay for all of the farmers who are so far away from services. But we pay for them through our bill because that's fairness. That's what we are in this community. That's what we are as a Saskatchewan people. We like being fair to each other. And that's just one of the situations. Like if you were going to ask a person to get a telephone in Fond du Lac, I can tell you right now it'd cost him $500 a month, and he wouldn't have a bit of service. That's what it would cost. But we don't do it that way. We level the playing field and make it reasonable for everybody. And that's, I think, what we're trying to do here. We're certainly not trying to, in any way, heap a bunch of taxation on those people with lower valued properties. That's not the idea here. The idea is that we have certain costs that we have to have, i.e. looking after fire and police, that everybody uses, no matter where you are, in which corner of the community you are, whether you're in a big house, small house, or an apartment or whatever. We all have to use those services, and we should pay somewhat have a level playing field in that regard. So that's why I'm not at all upset in what we're doing here. We haven't gone crazy here. We've put certain special tax on for paving, we've put special tax on for snow removal, we put tax on for policing, all of those kinds of things, which I think is reasonable. Had we not done that, some properties would be so sky high that simply it would not be affordable to be in this city. So as a result, I think we've leveled the playing field well enough, and I think we've done a good job of it, and I think we're not really being harmful to those people with those lesser valued properties.
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Your Worship. We're talking this year, we're adding one new special tax, right? This isn't all new. I know that I received many phone calls saying, hey, you're adding 4 new special taxes. I can't believe it. No, we're adding one. It's $40. And really, it's a way to separate, and we're gonna get into this later.
Yeah, the snow.
So, in 2011, though, it was recommended that the snow tax and the infrastructure tax be $100. And the council of the day said, no, it's too high. But that was 11 years ago. So here we are, we're looking at a $40 increase to that tax. Yes, we're separating it to make it clearer, but we're adding $40 to something that was recommended in 2011 to ensure that we have the right amount of funds. 2011. So bravo to those that held the line at the time and kept the taxes low at the time. But in the meantime, what we've done is we've created that difference that Councillor Cody was just talking about. We've created a 2-tier essentially, and we don't want that. Well, some might. But I'm talking to many people right now, and they're saying, listen, your taxes on the higher end homes are getting out of control. Without those homes, our services are next to nothing. Without new builds, we're gonna have to continue to increase taxes. And if we can show the people that, hey, we have a way to level out those taxes a little bit and slow it down from increasing by $1,800 or $2,500 a year, we might see some people building in the community. We're on the verge of having many good jobs move into town. New hospital, it's gonna create lots of many high-paying jobs. We want them to build in our community. We want them to buy in our community. So we can have the services, the bus services, the fire and the police services, that it doesn't hurt every year to fund these. If we add more people to the city and they think that it's fair, then great. We're gonna be able to hold the line a little bit easier. What a base tax does, and I'm a supporter of it, is it helps, as Councillor Cody said, level it out a little bit. And we need it. We absolutely need to level it out. The disparity between the $100,000 homes and the $600,000 homes is ridiculous. It's not good. The roads get cleared the same, which they should. Well, although those on Glen Howard Way will argue that they don't get the services that they should. But we need to show our city that we do care. And I do care about the seniors on fixed income. I am a little worried about the seniors on fixed income. Councillor Lennox Zepp, our first year, 2016, made a motion to have a look at what we can do with senior taxation. I don't know where that went, but I think it's worthwhile bringing that back, where they could defer their taxes because they can't afford the increases. I think it was a good idea, and I don't know whether we denied that or what happened, but it might be worthwhile, because I understand seniors can't go out and go get a job to make up. Others certainly can. There's lots of jobs in the city. So I am going to support these bylaws today, and I'm going to talk later on the rest that are coming, including the police special tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I have a observation and then a question for probably the Director of Finance. I too am excited about what is happening in our city in the upcoming years. I do believe fare isn't always equal and that there is a balance for all of our residents. I too worry and think about our senior citizens who have put in so much into our city over the last, have made our city the city that it is. And they are, many people on fixed income, and it is, any raise will affect them. But I do know that they know and are willing to do what they think will help our city continue to grow for their children as well. My question is for the Director of Finance. We learned about the word special, and we've changed some wording, special roadways tax, special police tax, special snow management tax. I noticed that with the PA bid, that it was called a special levy. So it's the word special from the City Act. What does that mean and entail?
Briam? No. Acting Director of Financial Services.
Thank you, Councillor Kilmer, for the question. Brianne's the one who helped prepare the report, and she said there's nothing different about the special levy, okay? But the special taxes themselves have to be used for those functions. So the roadways special tax would have to be used just for roadways expenditures.
Okay, and does that also mean that, yes, we have to put notice in X amount of dates before the city moves on continuing a special tax? And as well, we have to present to council, or you would have to present to council if there's a deficit or a surplus, and we would have to make a decision each year?
That is correct. We'd have to notify the public as to what we would be doing with the excess funds.
Okay, and is that true with the levy as well, the special levy?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought I should weigh in on this as well. I know we put a lot of work in towards the budget, and I kind of talked about that a little bit, and we landed on a number which requires some increases. And so this is where maybe not be perfect, but definitely an area where I feel is fair and reasonable. And some of the people I've talked to within my ward is definitely understanding that increases are necessary in order for us to continue business and not suffer any lack of services, I guess. So I will be supporting this motion today. I mean, I do have some comments around some of the snow management and other comments that I've received, but as far as this motion to increase it to 1.8% and the $40 base tax, supporting that as I feel it is the best way to go forward and the most fair. Thank you.
Okay, I'll close because everyone's talked. I approach it a little different way, okay? First of all, I'm going to give a good news announcement. The new NATO unit at the hospital that will stay where it is, been rebuilt in preparation for the new hospital shifting over, will be opening shortly, and it requires 33 new employees. The new NATO unit, they announced that today, that they have to hire 33 new employees. So we've already started the motion for it. Okay, I look at base tax a little different. And it's funny because council supports the other way I look at it. I look at it as user pay. Okay, I'm a very strong believer in user pay. And I don't see a difference when we tell Jody, Director of Public Community Services, that we want a return of 60 to 65% on our rinks. That we're prepared to pay 35% subsidy, but we're not prepared to pay more. That's like a base tax. That's a user pay. Our goal is we could pay 50%, we could pay 40%, but it's a user pay. And people have no issue with that because you're using the thing. Well, my argument is a base tax is user pay. We all have the right to the same services. We all have the right to the fire department. We all have the right to the police, garbage. So that's why I support it. I look at a base tax similar as I promote user pay. That if you get the services, you should help pay for it. Do I believe you have to pay for it all? No. But I do believe you have to pay your share. And I do believe there's 700 properties in our community that are coming up a little short. And I know those are going to be challenging because those are seniors and special needs and people on fixed income. But at the end of the day, we're not putting a big burden on them. We're putting a burden, but it could have been worse. So I will be supporting these motions. And I'll prompt the question. The question is now open. Motion passes 7-2. City Clerk.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 7 of 2022, a bylaw to raise the amount of taxes for general municipal, library, and capital projects for 2022. This bylaw is for first and second reading at today's meeting.
Oh, just a minute. We can't do them as a group that we passed them? No. Okay, so I might win the time thing now after that comment. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I move that bylaw number 7 of 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you, and I'll ask to leave your lights on so we can continue through. Thank you. Okay, it's now open. Uh, 7-2, thank you. Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 7 of 2022 be introduced and read a second time.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Carried 7-2.
We have bylaw number 8 of 2022, a bylaw to raise revenue required for snow management to be completed in 2022. This bylaw is for first and second reading.
Thank you. Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 8 of 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you.
I will second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Carried 7-2. Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 8 of 2022 be read a second time.
Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. It's now open. Passed 7-2. City Clerk.
We have bylaw number 9 of 2022, a bylaw to raise revenue for roadways work to be completed in 2022. This bylaw is for first and second readings.
Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 9 of 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you, Councillor
I'll
Kilmer.
second that.
Thank you. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Ooh, where'd I go with number 9? I must have got the wrong one. But I'm all right, I'll get this corrected. Okay, it's now open. Carried 7-2. Councillor Cody.
I move that bylaw number 9 of 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you, Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Now open. 7-2, carries. Councillor Cody. Sorry, clerk has to read it.
Right. We have bylaw number 10 of 2022, to raise revenue for police services in 2022. This bylaw is for first and second reading.
Counselor Cody,
I move that bylaw number 10 of 2022 be read a first time.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll prompt the question. It's now open. Missing one vote. Oh, yeah, 8-1 changed. Okay, sorry.
I move that bylaw number 10 of 2022 be read a second time.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Questions now open? Carried. Okay.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 11 of 2022, to raise revenue for the Business Improvement District for 2022. This bylaw is for first and second reading.
I
Councilor
move that
Cody.
bylaw number 11 of 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
I will
Um,
second that.
Thank you. Prompt the question. Questions now open. Carried. Councilor Cody,
I move that bylaw number 11 of 2022 be read a second time.
thank you. Councilor Gilmore,
I'll second that.
thank you. So I'll prompt the question. Questions now open. Carried. Okay, now we're on a different one. Okay, you can cue your light, Dawn, or are you gonna pass this one? Okay. Now, with this set done, I'd like to remind all councilors that we have a special meeting in council tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in the chambers to present third reading on the bylaws, so we can have our financial services move ahead with taxation. No. This is where I'm going. Snowman, there we go. I had to skip these two, right? Okay, I'm there. 11.7, snow management infrastructure base tax. Councilor Kilmer.
I'll move that the snow management special tax be reviewed annually to determine if adjustments are required to appropriately fund the snow management reserve.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Edwards?
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank
I
you.
have some comments if I may.
Yep, you go ahead, and then discussion, or anyone else.
Thank you. I think it's important that we do review the snow management special tax that was already in place. I just want to clarify that this isn't, this was already in place. This isn't something new, it's just adjusted and renamed. So I do think it's important. We're talking $60 a year to go into the special, the snow management tax. When we have this, it doesn't mean that the services are going to increase. And that's something that concerns me a little bit. This year was an exceptional snowfall year, we know that. But I know there's some concerns from many residents, and some of them are are the state of the roads as the snow melted, and the fact that we didn't bring our blade down. This is the concerns I'm hearing, that we didn't bring our blade down low enough to remove the snow close enough to the pavement, which left the ruts. Now, did we change something? This is a question to the director, this is what it appears to be to me as well, that we left the blades up, we left a lot of snow on the roads. And I don't know the reason we did this, if we did this, whether it was to not have as much snow along the side of the roads that we weren't gonna be able to remove, or what. But I'll see if the director can maybe answer some of these questions.
Director of Public Works.
Thank you for that question. So I think you're already heading in the right direction there, is that we had an extraordinary amount of snow this year. By our recollection, and it's really hard to get the true data from Environment Canada and everything, but we can see that the snowpack for this year was greater than any in the last 30 years. That made it difficult, because as soon as we worked our way through the city to clear the roads, grade them, do the windrow, and it snowed again, we'd be right back at it and starting over on priority 1s and working our way down to priority 3, which is residential streets. And you're correct. Eventually, we started to run out of room to put the windrows. The windrows were getting so large that some streets were down to 1 lane. So it became difficult to get right down to the pavement, because that meant you had to lift up that earlier snow, which turned into ice, if you recall those storms we had in November. Break that up, and when you bring that up and try to pile up on top of a 3 or 4 foot windrow, those big pieces of ice would then fall down onto the sidewalk or onto the road. It was a heck of a mess. So yes, there are some streets that they made a conscious effort to still clear the street, but they couldn't bring it right down to the bottom. And they went back as often as they could and as early as they could. But it was a terrible year for snow clearing, because early in the year we had that variation from above and below and snowfalls that turned to ice. And then we had that really long stretch of freezing cold weather in January and part of February. So it was somewhat different from last year, but not intentionally leaving streets and not plowing them. It was just very difficult to get down to the bottom on every street.
Yeah, okay. So what would it take to get down to the bottom of it and remove the snow along all of the roads that we never did this year? We didn't remove it. So are we talking about adding another $30 a year to residents? Does that mean buying more equipment? Does that mean more manpower, more overtime? How do we get there if we so choose?
So that was a question that was posed to us by council in an earlier meeting this year. We are working on a report to respond to that. It's going to be an in-depth report. There were several items that Councillor Kilmer had put into that request, but we've added even more. And we want to do a thorough investigation. We want to come back to you with, here's the cost to doing business each year, which you can see in this report.
Yes.
And here's what it would cost to make improvements to that business each year. What would it take to do more snow hauling, more lifting versus just plowing? And there's, of course, consequences of that for manpower, equipment, and eventually this snow management taxation.
Yes, so I'm happy to hear that review is coming to us. That's going to be a very important review. And we got to set where the baseline is going to be. Where do we want that to be? Do we want to remove all the snow and have $150 a year added to the base tax, or where do we want to go? So just for the people listening, that review is coming, and it's important to know that we'll go through all of it line by line, and we'll see where we can go with it. So thank you for answering the questions, Director.
And just sort of butt in there, I've done the same thing in my yard. I would not even drive in my yard when it snowed, so I get it right down to cement. But the last 4 snowfalls, if you go to my house, are packed on my driveway, because I just can't lift it over the 2 banks that I have on either side. I can't even see my neighbor's truck now on the other side of the bank. So, you know, I'm familiar what they are, because we're all in the same spot after 30 years of catching the snow, that, you know, that's what we had to do. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with what Councillor to my right just suggested, and I really look forward to reading the snow and ice review policy that's going to be coming forward in May. But I just wanted to say to whoever is listening that perhaps if they take the time to read this report about the snow management from the past, from 2011 on, and review the past history that really great councils made suggestions and followed, that the reason that we are here right now talking about snow management and the idea of reserve from this report, so thank you, the Director of Financial Services, from this report, I now understand that the reserve was not the money that was collected from the base tax, but that the reserve, in fact, was what was left when we budgeted from the budget, and if it was a surplus, it went into the reserve directly, and if it was a deficit, it was taken from that reserve. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for this report and recommend that people, if they have questions, it really does lay it out well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I should comment on this. Thank you, as Councillor Kilmer mentioned, for the report. It was helpful to identify what we are spending over the last decade on snow removal. And seeing this motion ahead of us today, saying that we're going to review it annually, whether or not we have enough resources to, to provide that service. But I'm glad we're going to do a review. I'm hearing May being the date because we've heard a lot of comments from the public about limiting parking on streets, about lifting it earlier where we don't have so much runoff, about getting right down to the pavement where we're seen and ice is frozen to the road. So all these things, I guess, I'm happy we're going to be looking at that and whether or not we need to adjust some of our priorities as well. So I hope that this review would be coming soon, but also looking at whether or not we have enough money within this base tax ask as well. So I just want to make that point for I hope the director hears some of those comments and would include that in your report coming back to council. Thank you.
Right on. Any other comments? Seeing no one in the queue, I'll prompt the question. The question's now open. And the motion carries. Okay, 11.8, disposal of 848 18th Street West. Oh, sorry, didn't see you standing there, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. That the vacated city-owned property located at 848 18th Street West be offered for public tender. That if a valid offer is received, the mayor and city clerk be authorized to approve the sale agreement and transfer authorization on behalf of the city once prepared.
She's slow. She's in training. Oh, look at the grief you caused me. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not finished yet, I guess. That if no valid offer received, the administration forward a report to City Council for further recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Kilmer.
I'll second that, and I do have a question.
Go ahead.
My question is for the Director of Planning. I am wondering, I noticed that in the sale price, it talks about back taxes, things like that are included in what's being retrieved by our city. I'm wondering about utilities. Do we ever include utilities in that?
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kilmer, for the question. In this specific circumstance, the amount owing was only in relation to taxes, but can we collect outstanding utilities as well? Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing no one in the queue. Questions now open. Carried, thank you. 11.9, Affordable Housing Program Application, Riverbank Developments. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that the Affordable Housing Program application made by Riverbank Development Corporation in the amount of $20,000 be approved, subject to the applicant purchasing 4 dwelling units within the city, and that the applicant entering into an operating agreement with the city for each respective property, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreements on behalf of the city once they're prepared.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Oh. Councillor Kilmer, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to point out that in the report itself, they talk about the official community plan, and I just wanted to read that portion and appreciate that the reason that we, as our city does follow this, is that the need for affordable housing is critical. Adequate housing can stabilize neighborhoods and enable the community to wrap services around individuals and families who require them. I love the wrap services and appreciate the official community plan.
Thank you. Okay, I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Thank you. Motion carries. There we go. 11.10, sale of tax title property, 129 23rd Street West. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move that the sale of 129 23rd Street West to Glenn Ferguson for $57,150 plus goods and services tax be approved, and 2, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the sale agreement and transfer authorization on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Cody.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I see no one in the queue, so I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. Carried. Okay, 11:11, contract zoning agreement extension, Western Management. Councillor Cody.
Yes, I agree with the administration's recommendation that the contract zoning agreement between the city and Western Asset Management, Inc. To allow for an office, limited agricultural use, and indoor-outdoor storage located at 1800 Riverside Drive for a 5-year term from April 30th, 2022 to April 30th, 2027 be approved, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the agreement and any other required documentation on behalf of the city once prepared.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox Epp. Ooh. Thank you. Discussion? I have a question, and I don't know who can answer this. In this tax thing, when we do contract zones, they pay the levies, the base tax, all those other add-ons that we have that other people in the city do? That's my question, so I don't know who wanted to tackle that. Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor, for the question. I could certainly touch base with our assessment official to get you an answer, but I believe they are appropriately assessed and taxed, similar to any other resident in the city. However, I would like to confirm that through email or whatever means necessary.
Well, my concern is I don't want to vote till I know that they're paying base tax, the snow levy, the asphalt. So I don't know what we'll do then. Because that's one of my concerns, because contract zoning is different than the regular zoning. So, all right, thank you. So for that reason, even though I understand it, I won't be supporting it strictly because I think it's important that all residents pay, equal pay. And whether you're under a contract zone or not, you're still licensed and operating in the city of PA, and you should be available for taxation. No, notice has already come out. So unfortunately, I'll just leave that and see, but I won't be supporting it strictly because I think it's important that in contract zones, that, because we have a few of them, you'll see another one coming up that, on here, and we have a few other ones that I want to make sure that they all pay their share. Councillor Zarakowski.
Well, it seems to me, Your Worship, that we can approve it conditionally on the requirements that you just outlined. And if those requirements become true, and once we have that information come back to us, then it can flow without delay, without the red tape. But if it proves not to be the case, then I think it could probably come back to us in a different format, or at least a conversation. If it does get defeated today, it will not come back as is my concern.
So we'd like to add an amendment, Councillor, who's up there, Cody, that we add number 3, that approval is granted on condition that they're paying all the base tax and levies, and if not, they have to bring a further report back to council. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, is that okay with you, Councillor Cody?
Yes, yeah, it's okay, but in this particular case, you have to remember where the place is. They're a long ways out of our community. They're practically out of the city. And do they get any of those services? Don't know that.
Yeah, they get garbage, they get,
Well, they don't get much because there's just a little road out. It's the old Shellbrook Highway, so I don't know if they pay it or if they don't pay it. I'm happy to see if they do pay it, and probably should, but I'm not sure of that. But sure, I think that's okay if we do it this way.
yeah. And I'll ask Councillor Zapp, I think there's 7 or 8 acreages out there.
Yes.
So they're not, go ahead, Councillor Zapp. Yeah.
Yes, I think you're correct on that. Just interestingly, and the mayor probably knows this, but I had sent in a mayor inquiry about the question that this property raises in that, in their letter. I sent it in maybe a year ago about another property neighboring them. The question was, why is the RM of Buckland vehicle doing the, was road repair of potholes on its city roadway? And Director, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the answer I received through the process is that the RM does the road repair on that old Shellbrook Highway up to a point in front of this property and about the 7 that you mentioned. And it is strange. I don't really know why, but maybe I could ask the Director of Public Works about that anomaly.
We'll go to the Director of Planning. It's all about the weird property line. That's.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, you already.
I'm on, yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Lennox, for the question. You're correct. It is a bit of a strange circumstance. City limits actually does cross across that highway, so the ARM does take care of a certain amount of road maintenance, and then it's passed along to the city. So that's a very high level response, and hope that answers your question.
Can I just ask, passed along to the city, what does that what does that mean?
I'm sorry,
Passed along to the city, you'd mentioned? What
Well,
does that mean?
yes, as the city limits crosses over the highway, then the responsibility to clear snow and road maintenance and those types of things would be our responsibility.
And am I getting that right, that some properties like this are within city limits, however, the RM does the road repair?
It's the road,
Yeah.
it's the road itself, yes. Yeah, it's a very gradual crossing of the road. It is quite strange, yeah.
And actually, the road is 100% us as Ed Yo's. Otherwise, it goes at a funny angle.
Yes.
So if you're on this side, you're in the city limits, but if you stand on the road, you're not.
Right. So I think that's something to note.
Yeah, at one time, I think we should give our Director of Public Works, or not, planning instructions to obtain that piece of property, because it's just a little roadway. And we do snow removal sometimes there too, because all the equipment's working there, so it is kind of silly. Councillor Zarakowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm trying to find a win-win here. I'm just looking at number 3, and I wonder if it would be more appropriate at this time if it's the approval is conditional based on confirmation of applicable base taxes.
Okay, yeah.
With the permission of the mover and the seconder. And that way the administration can have the review based on the concerns brought forward. And again, without delay if it's not required.
Yeah. Okay. And I did a few years ago ask the same question, and my response was the property line. But at the same time, it's only 1 or 2 acreages, and then they're back on city streets. And they'll go across the city bridge and they drive. A base tax for asphalt is not, just not for the asphalt in front of your property. It's to be dispersed for the whole city. Yep. Okay, I'll move the question then. Good debate. Okay, the question is open. And, oop, missing one. Councillor Edwards. Thank you. Carried. Okay, we'll move to a new page. Yeah, this one's even more unique because they're actually on grid roads. So this is an interesting one. 1112, yep. Contract zoning agreement extension, Paulson and Son. Go ahead, sir.
So I will move, do a little cutting and pasting as well.
Yep, go ahead.
That the contract zoning agreement between the city and Paulson and Son Excavating Limited to rezone a portion of the property located at 2403 17th Avenue West from future urban development to M1, which is heavy industrial, to accommodate the uses of an asphalt plant, a concrete plant, and storage facility for a 5-year term from April 30th of this year to April 30th of 2027 be approved, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the contract zoning agreement and anything else that is required on behalf of the city when it's ready. And
You can add number three.
that this approval is conditional upon confirmation of applicable base taxes.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Miller?
I'll second Mayor Dion, thank you.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. And carried. Thank you very much. 1113, Municipal Economic Enhancement Program, MEEP, funding relocation. Yeah, this is the money we had left over from MEEK. Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that the unspent funding from the Municipal Economic Enhancement Program in the amount of $18,795.39 be reallocated to fund the reconstruction of park pathways work completed in the year 2021. That administration forward a further report to allocate the unspent approved 2021 capital funding in the amount of $18,795.39 that was approved for reconstruction of parkway pathways in 2021, along with any other capital project savings for consideration by members of council, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to execute the Schedule B project plan, amendment form, and any other required documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Councillor Zierkowski.
Yes, I will second administration's recommendation.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is to help me understand, so it might be the Director of Financial Planning. So we had budgeted money in 2021. We are going to have it paid through a different account. So would that then be, that money goes to the infamous fiscal stabilization?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, that's what they're shaking. Okay, thank you. I'll prompt the question. The infamous. I like that, infamous. Okay, the vote's now open. And carried. Thank you. Okay, 1114, SUMA, external review of property tax system. Councillor Zierakowski.
I will move that this city participate with all other Saskatchewan cities in Saskatchewan, the SUMA organization, to impart on a external review of the property tax system in Saskatchewan at the approximate cost of $3,125 to be funded from the Physical Stabilization Fund. The famous
A seconder.
FSNF.
Councillor Cody.
Yeah, I'll second it just because it has to have a seconder, but I do have a comment to make.
Go ahead.
Yes? The comment I have is why are we paying $3,125? The thing is, we have an advocacy fund at SUMA, and I think if you check, I've got the annual report, and I was going to check it today, and I got busy doing something, didn't do it, but I suspect it has a lot of money in it.
600,000.
Because there has been very little advocacy done over the years, over the past number of years, and that is exactly what it's for. True, there's going to be $10,000 come out of the advocacy fund on top of the $3,125 that all of the 16 cities put in each, and that'll pay the $60,000 for the report. And the report, I think, is necessary. I agree very much with the report, because I think we need to look at SAMA. There's no question about that. It's a broken system. It hasn't worked for years, and it isn't working now. And we saw that last year when it come to revaluation. We got to have a different system. And I think this will help us get there. But why SUMA needs us cities to pay just one bit more when we have an advocacy fund there is beyond me. So I guess now that I've said that, the question goes to who? I guess we should take it to SUMA and ask them why.
And that's why I won't be supporting the motion. I was very critical of SUMA right from the start of the advocacy fund. It sat there for years without being used any of the money. And I always understood when you brought a plan in that you had a plan. And well, they still don't have a plan for it today. And they've had our money for 10 years. And I don't agree with paying it. They probably made this 31 in interest in that account they have. So I'm not going to support it because we do have an advocacy fund, and at SUMA we can solicit that they pay for it out of there. Okay, Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship, and that's kind of, thank you, Councillor Cody, for clarifying that. That's what I was going to ask. We're paying per capita fees to this organization. I would suspect that some of that work comes with those initial fees, and why ask for more here? And I'm happy to hear that there's an advocacy fund available to us, and that should be used instead of our asking for more from us here. So I won't be supporting this motion. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Zierakowski.
Thank you. I'd like to answer the question because I think it's an important answer. But also when asking questions, I think it's important, or before we engage in speculation, we ask the question, where have these funds been spent on advocacy? Where have these resources gone? What's been spent on that? Let's ask the question before we engage in speculation. The answer to the question is, why is SUMA asking cities to bear some of this cost is because the recommendation come from the City Mayor's Caucus to SUMA to help pay from the advocacy fund. So that's where the original ask came from. And I agree with my colleagues in the room. I brought that concern up as well to SUMA, but that was the conversation around the table at the time.
Thank you, and thank you for that clarification. Councillor Cody.
Yeah, I sit in on some of those mayor's things for some strange reason. And I tell you what, I remember vividly in Yorkton discussing this issue about this very report. But I think we indicated there pretty strongly that why are we paying additional funds when there's an advocacy fund? So I'm not exactly clear what my colleague across is the way of saying about that that the city's caucus, or city's caucus said it should be paid. I'm not exactly sure if that's the way I heard it, but we should maybe clarify that with the city's mayors and see if that was what it is. If that's what the city's mayors said, then of course we have to go along with it. But if it's not, then I think what we should be doing is clarifying it and making sure that we're all on board, or all the cities at least, are on board with the payment. I certainly don't want this to go awry and not get the report done, because I think it's an extremely important report that needs to be done, or the review that needs to be done. But I'm a little hesitant on the money, that's all.
Well, and then I'll let Ted close because he's the thing. Yeah, I'm still not going to budge. I'm not supporting it, strictly because even if you look at the advocacy funds, and I did check this, Ted, the 16 cities paid the largest amount, as we always do. And the rest of the towns, villages, pay their proportionate share. So even though it may have come from the mayor's caucus, hey, we gave the most money. And so if it should be spent, they should have a better say in it. Okay, Councillor Zierakowski.
Yeah, and my standing up is not an attempt to change anybody's mind. I just want to make sure the information is out there that certainly the voice from the city mayor's caucus at the meetings, from what I've heard, was loud and it was very important to be heard, and that's great. But the decision from the city mayor's caucus as a whole was, I think, a little bit different from the voice that came from this city. Similar to the issue about, we had an opinion, we had a desire about the next election dates. That went to the city mayor's caucus, and they voted on and decided something else that the executive, the board at SUMA, went along with the city mayor's caucus to increase the weight of the advocacy effort there.
Good point.
So I just wanted to, I think that's all I wanted to say for 3,125. And again, I agree with you. If there's money there, why not use it? But why are they asking? I think it came from the city mayor's caucus.
Okay, the only thing I'll also mention, not trying to sway anyone's vote, but our membership is $25,000 a year, which is a huge amount. Councillor Kilmer?
Thank you. So if this were to not pass, would the, what would happen moving forward? Would our city mayor move forward with this?
It would go back to them for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
And it might switch that they pay. It's hard to say. Okay, I'm going to prompt the question. Okay, the question's now open. Passes 5-4. Thank you. $11.15, repealing bylaw number 6. Oh, that's that monster one? It is. I didn't mind the reading though about the horses and which direction we could go and where we could tie them up. Yeah, it was very painful. Okay, Councillor Miller.
You can be the second.
You're getting seconded, though, so leave your lights on.
That bylaw number 6 of 2022 be introduced and receive 3 readings this evening. But
Thank
my
you.
husband will miss the horses.
And you leave your light on, please.
Yeah.
Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Prompt the question. I think I wore my finger out with all these bylaws. Okay, it is now open and carried. Go ahead.
Mayor, we have bylaw number 6 of 2022, a bylaw to authorize the repeal of certain bylaws of the city. This bylaw is for 3 readings.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. That bylaw number 6 of 2022 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Question? Okay, the question's now open. Carried unanimously. Councilor Miller.
That bylaw number 6 of 2022 be read a second time.
Thank you.
Second that, Mayor Dion.
Thank you. Drop the question. Oop, oop, oop. Oop. Recall. 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 This is bylaw number 6. Quit asking me which button I pushed. Okay, I gotta review it again. Stand by. I'm pretty sure it said second.
It's going a lot quicker than I thought we were gonna go.
That's the one? Yeah, it's at 0 and I can change it. There we go. Okay, the vote's now open. Carried. Councilor Miller.
That leave be granted to read bylaw number 6 of 2022 a third time.
Thank you. Councilor Edwards.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Has to be unanimous. I'd like to remind members of council. So I'll go to. Why have we got bylaws? Okay, it's now open. Leave is granted. Councilor Miller.
That bylaw number 6 of 2022 be read a third time and passed, and that bylaw number 6 of 2022 be now adopted, sealed, signed by the mayor and city clerk.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards.
I'll second that, your worship.
Thank you. Questions now open. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, unfinished business. We have 3 notice of motions from Councilor Head. Oh, sorry. I'm sitting here waiting for him to start.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, you know, it's been a long time coming since these motions have come forward. I think we put them back last summer, but waiting for a report, which we had now received in the last executive meeting. You know, I don't know how much more I need to say on this other than the report did show that we can do work on these 3 items, but in total 12 together. I would like to add 2 more to this list today, and so I'll do that when we get onto notice of motions. But implementing number 47, 77, and 75 are things that are necessary, as I mentioned before in my comments to this council, necessary in order for us to achieve reconciliation and work towards that. I don't expect it to happen overnight, but I would like to make some commitments from the city council to do just that. And I know we've done a lot of work, and so a lot of good work is still required on these items. And so I hope today that I get your support to introduce call to action number 47, which I had mentioned to repudiate concepts used to justify European sovereignty over Indigenous peoples and lands. Number 77 is more around the records and that are relevant to residential school systems, and we've kind of touched a little bit on it today around our commemorative marker of residential schools, day schools, piece going along the river. Also, we had call to action number 75. Again, working on strategies and procedures around residential school survivors. And it says a lot more. I'm not going to read it all again. But the two else that I'd like to see included in this is item number 43, call to action number 43, which implements and adopts the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I see that hanging outside your doorway, Mr. Mayor. So we've done that already. It's a matter of making a formality in this chamber. Also, I'd like to include item number 57, and I think we've already done some work around the education to public servants when it comes to residential school survivors and Indigenous peoples. I understand in our conversations that there's just shy of 80 permanent employees that haven't taken it yet, and so implementing that is an important way and a necessary step forward. So I don't know, I think I'll leave my comments there. I said a lot on these items last summer, but I think, and I would hope that we're going to pass all three with the addition of two more, and of course, the commitment of working towards the other seven to find truth and reconciliation.
Okay,
Thank you.
we have the three, and I'll move them forward, but you'll have to make a notice of motion for the other two, because they're not on the table. And are you making this motion? Oh, he turned his light off.
I did, yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. I will be making the motion to, sorry, I thought it was already in there.
And what was 47 again? Just,
47 is to repudiate concept
We're
used
gonna
to
do them one at a
justify
time.
European sovereignty over Indigenous peoples and lands. And so that's the call to action number 47.
okay, like, we're all doing these, are all separate, just so you know,
So I'll move the first one to implement call number action number 47.
which is about land claims.
To repudiate concept, yeah.
Okay. Seconder? Councilor Miller?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Brodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question to the mover and the seconder. I agree that we need to implement the calls to action, but I'm unsure of how we do this. So help me, if we pass this motion, what would that mean for us as a city? Like, how do we do this and renounce these things? Or is it just a statement that we're renouncing this? Or is there actual action associated with that renouncing of this? So help me and educate me on how we would do this and how are we going to do this?
Good question. Oh, Councilor Accept?
I can add my thoughts, and I'm sure there are others. I would think that the doctrine of discovery and terra nullius, I mean, those are legal concepts across Canada, right? And so this item and all of the TRC items on the agenda, they all specifically say we call upon federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments. That's how they start, right? So they're asking all levels of government, including us, to work towards a goal. And I would think on this item that that it is more of a theoretical, that this municipality is supportive of the, I guess more so across Canada, that these this legal doctrine be reconsidered and look at the history and why land was taken inappropriately, unless we as a municipality are engaging in that. So I wanted to share that thought here. This one, and there may be other answers here as well, but that was my thought, is that supporting change generally about land.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to prompt the question. Okay, questions now open. Motion carries. Councillor Head?
Thank you. I will motion that we implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action number 77, which is the records relevant to residential schools. And I guess the idea, if I could
Yes.
speak on it then,
Go ahead.
is if we have those records or if we have any information on that sort, we're going to work with
Surrender.
the commission to ensure we provide and hand over those records for their, for that assistance, I guess. And so, not sure if we have those, but that's kind of what this call of action is asking for.
Yes. Councilor Sierakowski.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yeah, that's more easier and it's easier to track. If we got records, we'll more than pleased to give them over. Okay, the question's now open. Motion carries. Councilor Head.
Thank you. I'd like to put a motion forward to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action number 75. And again, this is to implement strategies and procedures and efforts to work with the survivors of the resident school system and any record that we may have.
Okay, seconder. Oh, sorry, Ted. Didn't see you, sir.
I will second that.
Thank you. I'll prompt the question. Question's now open. And carried. Thank you. Okay, there's no more unfinished business, so we will move to number 13, Mayor and Councilors Forum. Councilor Obradnik.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have quite a few here. I'll start with one last Wednesday, I do believe it was, in the morning. Our city group met with a group in France, our twin city of Théry-aux-Plaines. And we met and talked about where we go and how we implement this twin city concept. And we met with the mayor of that small town. It's only a town of about 1,100 people in eastern France. Kind of if you look at a map, it's kind of towards Switzerland, that area of France.
Yes.
And what we had a lot of good discussion through interpreters, of course, and included some French people from our community here, the French Society, as well as the principal of École Valois. She's on that committee as well as other people, and it was spearheaded by Judy McLeod Campbell, which fits into our municipality cultural plan. And how do we do all this? And so what we started with small, and what came out of the meeting was that two schools, the middle years students in this particular community will link and start discussions with students, middle year students at Valois to start off with, and then to expand that to the other middle years schools that have French-speaking students or French-speaking program in Prince Albert. So it's a start, and it's basically an idea to exchange culture, to exchange what it means to be a francophone in Prince Albert, and then of course it all revolves around I think it's 6 Canadians, including Mr. Giles from Prince Albert area, that were part of Blue Nose Squadron, I do believe it was, that liberated France from the Nazis during World War II. Mr. Giles paid the ultimate sacrifice, and he's buried in this particular community. And the residents of this community look after his as well as the other Canadian graves. And they just wanted to get to know us and acknowledge the fact and thank the fact that Canadians helped liberate from that Nazi regime during World War II. So it was a really good meeting. Difficult because I don't speak French and other members of the committee did, and so they probably got a little more out of it than I did. Secondly, I want to acknowledge St. George's Ukrainian Catholic Church this past weekend. Had a what I love was Ukrainian meal and fundraiser and a silent auction, which also I love. And I think they raised upwards about $14,000, and that money is going towards helping defend Ukraine against the oppressive dictator from Russia. Ukrainians right across Canada, and it wasn't only Ukrainians that fundraised or supported this, it was the community that supported this, but it was initiated by that particular group, and one of the people that spearheaded this was Taras Kachakowski, and I want to thank him and the ladies and the men that at that particular church that did that. So congratulations to them. Since the last meeting, Brittany Hudak won a second bronze medal at the Paralympics. So I want to congratulate Brittany, Prince Albert's own Paralympian. So she won 2 bronze medals at the Beijing Olympics. I also want to congratulate and just thank the members of the soccer community in Prince Albert that dedicate hours and hours and hours of volunteer time to our young people that play soccer. And I could just imagine on Sunday how all of those young athletes and coaches felt when Canada, won and qualified for the World Championship in Qatar later in November, December. I know I watched part of the game because I had other commitments, but I never played soccer. I was involved in the soccer program, and a lot of our soccer players in Prince Albert and community members are diehard fans and players. And so I just want to thank the coaches to get those young people involved in soccer, and hopefully in the future we'll see some of them in years from now on our national team qualifying. I also attended a workshop put on by the Saskatchewan Multicultural Association on the National Day, actually International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The day is normally March 21st, which coincides with the Sharpeville massacre in South Africa under the apartheid regime. That day was picked to work towards the elimination of racial discrimination. We had a really good workshop that day. It involved an elder, slipped my mind what his name is, but he spoke about what it means to be Indigenous and how simple little things in our community that I take for granted actually are kind of racist or acts of discrimination, not intentional, but things like just, on our program we had welcome in a whole bunch of languages and we didn't have it in Cree. And things like that we just miss, and he pointed out a lot of things to us on that day that we do. And so I want to thank him for that workshop. It was very enlightening and very good. And there'll be a follow-up workshop that other people can attend if they so desire online. And we'll look at our community in particular on that. Last but not least, I just had so many questions and from residents about us charging another 6% on a tax on tickets to Raider games, Minto games, going to the Rollinson Center, another 6% tax there, another 6% tax at our gymnasiums and golf courses, and on and on and on and on. And I said, Chakai, hold it here. It's not a municipal tax. This is the expansion of the provincial sales tax. So I direct residents to, when they want to vent their frustration, to call the 2 MLAs in Prince Albert instead of their city councillors, because it's not our tax. That 6% is going to the provincial government where they've expanded that tax. So just for residents to know that it's not the city that's raising those taxes. And last but not least, and I'm sure somebody else is going to do this, but we have another birthday today of a councillor, Councillor Don Cody. It's his birthday today. I look up to you, Mr. Cody. I appreciate your comments, your advice, all the help you give me as a councillor, and I hope the heck that I reach your age. I'm a little bit younger than you, but happy birthday to Councillor Don Cody.
Okay, gonna keep going down the list. Counselor Edwards.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I have a few points to make. One of them was certainly wishing our good friend, Councillor Cody, a happy birthday as well. But it's done and we clapped and it's awesome. Good job. Glad you're here. You've helped me a whole lot too. So I'm going to move on to a big thank you to our fire department. So I think it was last week, maybe the week before, there was a major structure fire at Forest Grove on Dunn Drive. And this was a big fire. This was a big fire that they did a wonderful job putting out. There was no lives lost out of a major apartment that had many tenants, and I'm certainly thankful, as are the residents, thankful for the good work your department did on that fire, amongst others that you've had to deal with. In that were pets galore, and they were able to find them shelter as well, and I think rehome some of them and find their owners. So that's a big thing too. So now I'm gonna talk a little bit about. Well, I'm a little dissatisfied with some of the comments I heard in the month of March. One of the comments, and I'll quote, that Prince Albert needs an overhaul and review of our PA police service, getting back to community policing and prevention as opposed to arresting and detention. Another quote, calling for Minister of Corrections to intervene on another matter for changes. The truth is violence and crime in our city are a real concern. And our residents are very concerned about it. It's not okay for that people in our small city are walking around with machetes. It's not okay for people in our shopping areas to intimidate our residents. It's not okay for them to call those people shopping, going for groceries, racist when they don't hand over a loonie or a cigarette. I was talking with a senior the other day who says, you know, Blake, I lock my door at 7 p.m. That bothers me a whole lot. We're a small city. We're a small city where violence is getting out of hand. It's been out of hand. It's not okay for communities to ban their own residents and allow that resident to come here to Prince Albert to wreak the same havoc they were doing in that community without helping. Many families are dropping their own family members off in our city and saying, here you go, Prince Albert, you deal with our problem. Well, what solution is that? I was mentored once when I first started on council that it's not okay to raise the issues and blame and talk about all the negative things without coming forward with solutions. But that's what we're hearing from other groups right now. Blame, 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 but nothing offered on how we're going to deal with the issue. Well, it's time. I'm tired of listening to some of the comments out there that, oh, the damn police, or Mayor Dion, why aren't you changing things? Why can't you correct all the crime in our city? Oh my goodness, this is beyond city council. It's a community issue, but it's also an area issue. It's time we hold people accountable for their behaviors. It's time we find help and find solutions for some of these issues. It's not okay for our high school youth scared outside of their school because a bunch of gang guys are walking around intimidating. It's not okay in a city of 38,000 people. I want people to feel safe. It's a big issue, but it's an issue that can't be ignored. So instead of passing blame, I believe wholeheartedly that it's time we gathered our local MLAs, members from the federal Liberal Party, the chiefs from our First Nations around Prince Albert and north, the FSIN, and other organizations to deal with the issues that we have, including members of council. We need to be involved. We need to have a voice in what we can do. I don't know how we get there. I'll probably have to make a motion in the near future to make this occur. I won't be doing that today because I believe it needs to be worded properly and we need to invite the right groups. But it's time that we looked at the real picture and said, let's deal with some of these issues instead of blaming. I'm tired of the blame. So hopefully we can find some positive solutions instead of saying, oh, Prince Albert, it's so bad. Because there's a lot of people, including myself, that love Prince Albert. But we need to deal with the violence. We need to deal with the weapons. We need to deal with the public intoxication. And it's not alcohol anymore. It's the crystal meth that makes people unpredictable. The people in the shopping areas that are looking for money, it's a game to them now. It's not just asking for a loonie or a cigarette. It's you're racist. It's a game. They laugh at you. It's no good. So let's deal with it. I hope we can gather the leaders of our province and of Canada to recognize where we're at in our city. And this isn't just our city, but we're a small city and some of these issues can be addressed. Instead of turning a back like I believe our senior levels of government have done, we need to deal with it. So hopefully when the invite goes out, instead of saying, oh no, we can't talk about those issues, they come forward and let's talk about these issues that are causing concern for residents in our city. It's time. It's time. Let's do it. Well, let's put together a good motion in the near future and gather a summit and deal with the issue instead of blaming others. Thank you.
Just to add to your, and I'm glad you said city, province, and country, because in the last 5 years, violent crime has increased 81%. And boy, that's just not acceptable. So when you hear that, we really got to make sure we have the Liberals here, because they're the government that's in power, and they're the ones that make the rules, and they're the ones that let them out. And so I support you 100%. Councillor Lennoxette. Oh, hit the button, Greg.
As a result, just from the comments I heard, I think I would be very interested in that meeting, and I think that there are some big solutions that a community can look into, and a lot of issues I would say stem from poverty, and that we are a city that is dealing with severe poverty, children in poverty in our community. It is no joke. It's very real, and I think I also feel the frustration that gets expressed that we are kind of a small cog in a very big wheel in terms of governments. However, that I wanted to just share that as well. Mr. Mayor, what I would like to do is just read one sentence. It's from the Government of Canada website. It's regarding the Doctrine of Discovery and number 47 that we discussed. And just that the Doctrine of Discovery, we were just talking about how, what could we do, what is that? And I just wanted to to just very briefly say that the doctrine of discovery is a legal concept that justified colonialism, and terra nullius is a legal concept that justified taking land that was considered unoccupied, but actually was occupied by Indigenous peoples in our country. So just one line. This is from the Government of Canada, that saying what are they doing on that that exact doctrine of discovery and terra nullius. To answer that question, they say the preamble to the federal act respecting the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which came into force June 21st of 2021, rejects all forms of colonialism and notes the doctrines, policies, and practices based on or advocating the superiority of peoples or individuals on the basis of national origin or racial, religious, ethnic, or cultural differences, including the doctrines of discovery and terra nullius, are racist, scientifically false, legally invalid, morally condemnable, and socially unjust. So that's the taking of lands that has happened in our history. So I just felt compelled to share that so I could give a better piece of information. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Kilmore, Mayor's Forum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to stand and send our thanks and congratulations, or not congratulations, but thank you to the men and women in Public Works Department. Over the past 2 or 3 weeks, I am sure that they have received more than 800 direct calls, and not to mention the report of concern, and have dealt with them in a timely and efficient manner that they are capable of doing. So I'd like to thank them. I'd also like to thank our residents for their patience and using the report of concern form, because it does help with the queue and helps our city employees do the work that's necessary in a timely and efficient manner. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Dion. I got invited to a grade 5-6 class up at the Revival School up on South Industrial Drive, and took some questions from our social studies class, and
That must have been a challenge.
it was interesting.
They can ask questions.
They
That's
can
why I
ask
said
questions. Yes, they can.
They can ask.
And it was quite it was very nervous for me, because you never know what they're going to ask you.
Yes.
So they're going to call your office, and they want to come and sit in the chamber and see how things go, and probably maybe next executive meeting, when it's not so intense inside. So I invited them to do that, and them and their teacher. So hopefully they come. Thank you.
Right on. Anyone else on the Mayor's Forum before I close? Okay, a couple things. We did talk earlier about the PST. On April the 7th, you can buy your tickets at the Chamber office. We'll have both the Premier and the Finance Minister here to answer questions on the budget. And my only questions that I have, I'm going to represent quite a few sports teams and community groups about the expansion of PST. For some of these smaller groups to do PST, that means you got to get an accountant to reconcile your books and to make sure that you're paying the right amount. And they were doing pretty good when they said, certain ones are going to tax, but when they got to museums, and places like that, I thought, oh my God, these are places of learning. I see a museum as a place of learning. And so to tax, things like that. So it'll be an interesting meeting. This weekend, I'm very pleased to announce the Senators' Cup was probably one of the largest and best tournaments, 16 teams. Aboriginal teams across northern Saskatchewan. I'm very pleased to announce that Peter Ballantyne Band won. Yay, one of our locals teams. But if you went to the rink either Saturday or Sunday night, you would have thought you were at a Raider playoff game. 2,140 people one night. It was just unbelievable, and we were busy. And so I want to thank our staff for doing what they could, because the crowd was unexpected, strictly because everyone was still a little hesitant because of COVID. This is the first major. But people came out in groves, and it was very well attended. And so I want to congratulate the Grand Council. That's the Grand Council's program. And I'd like to congratulate them and Jeff Desmond, who of course leads the Urban. He had a great team working with him, and he thanked them. And I also want to thank Deputy Farah Prince. She spent the 2 days there with me. We were there full all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And yes, and actually Farah got to drop the puck at the opening ceremonies, which is a break from tradition. And she looks really sharp in her uniform. So it was a great appearance, and we were very welcomed. You know, we had no incidences. It was just great to show the friendship of our community. Okay, with that, I'll move on from mayor's inquiries to inquiries. Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had 2 inquiries today. One, I think, has already been answered, a review of the snow management processes, I guess, so looking forward to that report, so I won't labor on that one. But just to touch on Councillor Edwards' comments and statement, I've been getting a lot of calls about, and I mean, we've all seen some of the incidents that are happening within our city over the last couple of weeks, from tragic and travesty incidents, you know, to theft and breaking of windows throughout our neighborhoods. I've seen a string of that throughout the city. You know, so I've been getting a lot of conversations and questions about the tax. What are the police doing? Is there something? So my inquiry would be, is there something that the police? And I'm not blaming them, because we looked at reports of how much they're responding to the calls. And Councillor Edwards touched on it. It's the weapons, it's the crystal methods, the violence that we're seeing within our community. What are some of the things? A message from the police commission or a message from the police department? Is there something that they could reassure our residents that we're doing about all we can and ensuring the safety of our residents? So I guess that's my inquiry. Is there a message from the department to reassure our citizens?
Yeah, and maybe what I'll do is I'll expand. We do regular releases, but I'll make sure the council gets copies of them, because they're sent to the board and then to the media. But I'll add on to the list that we send them out to councillors so that they understand. Yeah, and I am in August going to a symposium in Saskatoon on crime, and it's called "You Can't Control Behind Closed Doors." And that's the subject, and it's talking about domestics, child abuse, and they're the hardest ones to fight and conquer because they're behind closed doors. It's not like the policeman can drive down the street and see you in the park doing something, and they can go snag you. And that's what happens with lots of especially with the young tragedies that we have. It happens behind closed doors. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But thank you for that inquiry. Any other inquiries? Oh, that's a good one. Okay, moving on. Inquiry responses, number 15.1. If I could get someone to move it and second it, please. Oh, sorry, Councilor Miller.
I'll receive and file.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Kilmer?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll prompt. Question. Inquiry responses. Yep, there it is. It's now open and carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to notice of motions. Who? Councillor Head.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to motion today, and I will fill out the paperwork, but if after this, the implementation of Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action number 43 would be my first motion. The second motion I'd like to put forward, implementation of Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's call to action number 57. 43 speaks to the implementation and adoption of United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and number 57 is to educate public servants in that area. So those are the 2 motions I'd like to put forward.
Thank you. Councillor Zepp.
I would move that the City of Prince Albert implement Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada call to action number 88, and that's regarding continued support for North American Indigenous Games and athletes for that.
What does it mean? It means sponsorship and stuff. We already do that. Just to give you a history lesson, I'll be quick. In 1996, we hosted the first Indigenous Games here in our city, and ever since then, we've sponsored and sent teams all over. So it's one that's already there, so it'll be quite simple, that we don't have to be ordered or reconciled to do the right thing. Okay, That's it. Any other motions? Hearing none. 17.1, a motion, Councillor Lennox Epp.
I move that administration provide a report regarding the costs and benefits of performing collection and combustion of landfill gases as described in Report 22-15.
Okay, second, Councillor Miller.
I'll second Mayor Dion, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if you want to speak on the item, and also on how you're going to fund it. Because one thing that you have to do is we have to hire a company to come in and monitor, even if we're giving off enough gas, so there's quite an expense to it. So also on how you could ask maybe the department on how you're going to pay for it. It is quite a costly thing.
Sure, we could add that it might be already considered in the word costs, provide a report regarding the costs, or we could add specifically funding options. Would that maybe be the best phrase?
Cost will do it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope that, that this motion passes. It's just for a report at this stage to determine that exact, question of the mayor's. This report that I'm referring to, we read it for the January 13th meeting of this year. And just one line from that report I just wanted to note that stood out, I thought, was the collection and combustion of landfill gases is likely the most common means of extracting energy from municipal solid waste. It requires the lowest investment in terms of capital and operating costs and is a well-developed technological solution. I remember when we discussed that on January 13th, several members of council stated that they found that interesting, that might be something to look at, and I flagged it and thought we should at least get more information. As I recall, administration did advise us, we don't think that we would be able to get that waste to energy portion going because we aren't a large enough landfill to expect to be able to get energy out of this, but that municipalities do collect and combust that landfill gas for environmental reasons to improve the environmental impact of those gases. And so I think it's worthwhile to get the information so that we can learn about it. There was, in the report of January 13th, there was one paragraph kind of generally about this, and that was it. And so if we could get a report to learn more and see if this is something that is viable or not. From that discussion, I didn't want to lose that piece from what we did discuss in January.
Could you tell me the time length? Because I'm quite sure I don't know if 90 days will do it. Director? Oh, I have to turn them on. Don Cody. He looked, that's my train number, but it didn't come from me. Okay, go ahead, Director, sorry.
All right. Based on the notice in motion of your last meeting, we've already started working on that report with the anticipation it was coming forward. And I can just frame it in the sense that it does go to what you said and what we said in the report is that it would be one of the most economical ones, but you have to have closed cells to start on. We don't have any closed cells at this time. And even on a small landfill like ours, most you would probably do would be off-gassing. So you'd be burning the gas instead of turning it into energy. Well, it's safer than letting it into the environment.
Oh, okay.
But we will look into it. We will have a report for you. We don't think it's viable because we're so small, but we'll show you the numbers.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe if I can just close that, that's very much appreciated. That is what we heard in January, right? Is that we're not big enough to likely make a go of it in terms of waste to energy, but that some form of off-gassing would be good for our environment. That's really good to hear. I didn't know about closed cells, so I've learned something. And I think, especially if there's already some information coming through the department, I hope this passes and we can learn about off-gassing and do we want to do something that could, as the director stated, could improve the environmental impact that we know our landfill has an environmental impact of the gas, and should we look into that? And it was noted to me that maybe we could consider the FCM Green Fund. They do offer grants, and maybe that's something that we could get some funding through if we were taking action to try to improve the environment.
Question for the director. What would it cost to close a cell? It must be big. That's gonna tell you how I'm gonna vote.
Thank you. So right now, the cells that we were working on, cell 1A and 1B, which we combined with the new cell that we just funded and built, they've all been combined into one cell. So we're doubling the height of our two existing cells from 2002 and 2011.
Oh, so we can't close any of them.
So until they're filled, we won't be closing any of them.
Okay.
So that could be plus 20 years.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just confirm something from your question? I just want to make sure I understood correctly. One option was closing off cells that the director mentioned. The other option, I don't think we're closing off cells anytime soon, right? The other option was just off-gassing.
No.
The
It's not a
off-gassing
notice,
could
it's
only
a
take
motion.
place
Yeah, it's
once
a
you
motion.
have officially closed the cell. You can't put these things in the working environment of a cell that you're still using, because you're still piling garbage and compacting on top of where you'd want the off-gassing. So once you've closed a cell, you're not filling it anymore and you've covered it up, then you drill these holes through the cell, which collects the gases of a closed cell. Well, we can't do it until you close a cell, but we'll explain that in the report.
Thank you.
If we request it. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna prompt the question. Question's now open. Passes 6-3. Okay, no public forum. Councillor Kilmer. Just give me 1 second here. My thing doesn't want us to leave.
I move that this council do now adjourn.
A seconder? Seconder? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Very good meeting, folks. Thank you. Bye-bye.